Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Kodanitai Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai Maya Poshashi. Jaya Nityanandaram, 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 Nityanandaram. Jaya Kodanitai, 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 Kodanitai. Go, Premanandi. So, when you're altering the sound, don't touch the pitch. Just use the slider at the bottom. The pitch is too much. Just leave the pitch. So, reading from Nectar of Devotion. It's not a special day today? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Goswami Prabhupada ki. So we are in the beginning of the Nectar of Devotion still, in the introduction. The definition of a pure devotee as given by Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu can be summarized thus: his service is favorable and always in relation to Krishna. In order to keep the purity of such Krishna conscious activities, one must be freed from all material desires and philosophical speculation, karma and jnana. So any desire except the service of the Lord is called material desire, and philosophical speculation refers to the sort of speculation which ultimately arrives at a conclusion of voidism or impersonalism. So if you're a jnani, it means you're an impersonalist. And if you're a kami, then it means you're trying to gratify your senses. And then if you're a bhakti, it means you're doing everything for Krishna. This conclusion is useless for a Krishna conscious person. Only rarely by philosophical speculation can one reach the conclusion of worshipping Vasudeva Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita itself. The ultimate end of philosophical speculation then must be Krishna, with the understanding that Krishna is everything, the cause of all causes, and that one should therefore surrender unto him. If this ultimate goal is reached, then philosophical advancement is favorable. But if on the conclusion of philosophical speculation is voidism or impersonalism, that is not bhakti. Srila Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Reading from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, this is Madhya Lila, the middle pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. And this is Lord Chaitanya is the most recent incarnation of Krishna. He appeared 500 years ago. He's Krishna in the mood of Radharani. So instead of being blackish, he's Krishna, which means he's in a golden form in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So it's chapter 20. The Lord instructs Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami is one of these personalities we see in the last picture. There's 6 persons in that picture, and they're called the 6 Goswamis. And one of the Goswamis was Sanatana Goswami, and his younger brother Rupa Goswami is the head of our lineage. That's why we're called Rupanugas. Shishikonitai Maya Pashashiki Jai. So Lord Chaitanya, the most recent avatar, is instructing Sanatana Goswami, one of his chief disciples. All 6 Goswamis were disciples of Lord Chaitanya. And it's text 175. 4. Oh, 5. Vaibhava Prakata. Oh, sorry. Prakasha Yeche Devaki Tanuja. Vaibhava Prakasha Yeche Devaki Tanuja. Okay. Give me a second. Old age is catching up. Dvibhuja Swarupa Kabu Kabu Hoya Chaturbuja. Dvibhuja Swarupa Kabu Kabu Hoya Chaturbuja. Vaibhava Prakasha Yachi Devaki Tanuja. Dvija Bhuja Swarup Kabu Kabu Hoya Chaturbuja. Vaibhava Prakasha Yachi Devaki Tanuja. Dvibhuja Swarupa Kabu Kabu Hoya Chaturbuja. Bolo.
Vaibhave prakashayai che devaki tanuja. Dvibhuja swarupa kabhu kabhu hoya chaturbhuja.
Dvija Bhuja Swarup Kabu Kabu Haya Chaturbhuja.
Vaibhava prakashayai che devaki tanuja.
Vaibhava Prakashayati Devaki Tanuja.
Dvibhuja swarupa kabhu kabhu hoya chaturbhuja.
Dvija Bhuja Swarup Kabu Kabu Haya Chaturbhuja.
Prakashayate Devaki Tanuja.
Vaibhava Prakashayati Devaki Tanuja.
Dvibhuja Swarupa Kabu Kabu Hoya Chaturbhuja.
Dvija Bhuja Swarup Kabu. Vaibhava Prakashayati Devaki Tanuja. Dvijaswarupa Koba Kabu Hoyat. Vaibhava Prakash. The feature of Vaibhava Prakash. Yache, just as Devaki Tanuja, the son of Devaki. Dvibhuja, two-handed. Swarup, form. Kabu, sometimes. Kabu, sometimes. Haya is Chaturbuja, four-handed. Translation. An example of Vaibhava Prakash is the son of Devaki. He sometimes has two hands and sometimes four hands. Purport Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Lord Krishna took his birth, he appeared outside the womb as four-handed Vishnu. Then Devaki and Vasudeva offered their prayers to him and asked him to assume his two-handed form. The Lord immediately assumed his two-handed form and ordered that he be transferred to Gokul on the other side of the river Jamuna. Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhattarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I was just thinking what that would sound like if somebody had just turned up at the temple and never heard much about Krishna consciousness before. How you would process that. Sometimes when you've been hearing and reading the books for so long, a lot of the things you just accept without thinking. But then for new people, that would be a little challenging until you're aware there's a lot of philosophy in Krishna consciousness. Anyway, basically, it's explaining that God has many forms, many different forms. This picture over here is an interesting one because you see there's like a hole in the clouds and all these rays of light are coming out. And those rays of light are souls that are leaving the spiritual world to come into the material world. Try the look in the material world. They've been with Krishna for a long time and they've decided, okay, I want to check out in the material world. So they come down into the material world. And then there's an expansion with four arms. That's also Krishna. His name is Adhoksaja Vishnu. Or there's different Vishnus. That's the Adhoksaja Vishnu. And from him, all the souls go into his body, and then he breathes out. And as he breathes out, all those bubbles that you see, they're all universes. And souls that have decided they want to live separately from Krishna have come into the material world to take birth in one of those universes. And as Adhoksaja Vishnu exhales, all the universes come out of the pores of his skin. When he inhales, all the universes go back into his skin. And that takes a few billion years for them to come out and then to go back in. And here we are in Lesmahego, in one of those universes, trillions and trillions of universes. So the way God likes to be a person, and he likes to be unfettered by the authority and responsibility of the Godhead. So just like one time a man wanted to see the Prime Minister, and he was sitting outside his office. He was told to just wait an hour, and after 3 hours, he was getting a bit uncomfortable. So he plucked up the courage, and he thought, I'll just go in and see the Prime Minister anyway. He can't be that busy. I've given him 3 hours. So he pushed the door open. He was a bit hesitant as well. As he pushed the door open, what did he see? The Prime Minister was on all four. He was on his hands and his knees, and on his back was his grandson. And the Prime Minister was playing a donkey. He was having lots of fun with his grandson. And so the man went, and then the Prime Minister, yes. So that's what God is like. He likes to play around and just be with his devotees in his spiritual. There's a different aspects to the spiritual world. So the most intimate is Goloka. And in Goloka, Krishna likes to just enjoy. But there's other expansions of Krishna where he acts as the Prime Minister, he's the maintainer, he sorts everybody, coordinates and synchronizes everything in all the different universes, makes sure everything's going on nicely. And he does that as an expansion of God which is in everyone's heart, called Caitanya-caritāmṛta Vishnu. So another expansion, another incarnation. So when you say, when some people are trying to get their head around the idea that there's a God, when you actually look into it, you see that there's many aspects to God. Just like you see the ocean. So the ocean is one, everyone will agree, there's only one ocean out there. But the ocean has many waves. And those waves are different features of the ocean. They're non-different from the ocean, although at the same time, they're different features of the ocean. So when you talk about God, that's a very big ocean, an unlimited ocean, with unlimited waves and features, incarnations, aspects, all doing their various things. But the Supreme Godhead himself, he likes to just enjoy as a person and just hang out with his friends and just be one of the boys. Sometimes one of the cowhead boys will climb on Krishna's shoulder and say, what kind of big man are you? I can defeat you. Sometimes some of his cowhead boyfriends are afraid when a demon comes, not because of the demon, but because they don't want Krishna to get hurt. And they just beat Krishna yesterday in the wrestling match, so they know Krishna's not going to be able to manage it. So the older cowhead boys will say, look, we'll have to take care of this. And Krishna enjoys that because he wants to be a person. Just like we are part and parcel of Krishna. So if we want to understand Krishna, we just have to understand ourselves. What do we like? We like love. We like to be sheltered, protected, related to interact personally, to go on adventures. So these are all things that Krishna, God, likes to do with his devotees. Any questions or comments? Plenty of time. It's a big lump to swallow, actually. You say, well, okay, I believe in God, but that there's a lot involved with what's going on. Yes.
Thought I'd use it since we've got it. So you're saying about God has many features,
Yeah.
and we've got this. What Vishnu is it?
There's three Vishnus. Garbhodakashayi. Caitanya-caritāmṛta is the Mahavishnu world, the universes. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu goes into each universe, and from the lotus stem, Lord Brahma is born. And Caitanya-caritāmṛta Vishnu goes into every molecule to make sure that everything spins, synchronized.
Right. Okay. And so in each universe there's a Brahma.
Yeah.
And this is the creator. So this is another like appointed.
Yeah, he's not God. He's a jiva that's been empowered. A normal living entity. So God has many expansions. and they're all as powerful as him. Just like if you have a candle, you light lots of candles. The original candle doesn't diminish in its power, but it can expand itself and have many, many candles. And they're simultaneously one and different from the original candle.
And so as living beings that we all are, we all have like an Atman or a soul, just like Brahma or Shiva as well. So does that mean that these are all different designations that your soul can take on depending on your karma?
Shiva is Shiva Tattva, so he's a different truth again, a different energy again.
Okay, that's interesting.
And he's like he has almost all the qualities. He's cognizant, he's fully independent, Abhigya and Swarat, but there's a few other features he doesn't have, like Krishna and Vishnu. So different manifestations of the Godhead. Sometimes Krishna manifests his full potency, or sometimes he'll come down in an incarnation which doesn't manifest his full potency, not all his qualities. So the easiest way to understand it is to just accept, well, there is only one God, and that's Krishna. And then other gods that come from him are either very, very powerful ones or not so powerful ones. So we're like little gods, and we're not so powerful. We're aware of what's going on in our own body, but even now, we're not very aware really of what's going on. Do we know when we're going to go to the toilet next? No, not really. It just kind of happens, doesn't it? Do we know how we're turning the blood into hair that's coming up the top of our head? It's kind of just going on, isn't it? We're probably aware of about 0.001% of what's going on in the body. So we're not even aware of that. Whereas the Godhead is aware of everything going on, everywhere, past, present, and future, all at the same time.
That's very interesting, thank you. I just wondered if you could speak a little bit about, we have these 4 yugas, and they take a long time.
4 ages, yeah.
Yeah, 4 ages.
Yeah.
And they correspond to like the time of, say, Brahma, a day of Brahma, there's so many ages, and Brahma lives
1,000.
for 100 years, and,
1,000
like
cycles of the ages, 1 day of Brahma.
1 day of Brahma. And each age lasts roughly what?
Altogether, the ages last about 2 million years. So that's 2,000 million years. For Kali Yuga, and each age is a quarter of the other one. So you have Kali Yuga 432. Actually, it's more than 2 million, isn't it? Then you have the age before that, Dwapara, which is twice as long as Kali Yuga. Then you have Treta, which is 3 times longer than Kali Yuga. And then you have Satya, which is 4 times longer than Kali Yuga. Yeah. So it takes a long time, and we're occupying a fraction. So just imagine they're having all these marches right now. Oh, there's a climate crisis. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's that. The next thing, and it's just this fluctuation. Just another way to tax us, in what's going on. In one day, there's 1,000 of these. We're in Kali right now, which has lasted 432,000 years, and there's 1,000 Kalis happen every day. So in terms of your day, what happens 1,000 times during the day? Maybe you blink your eyelid, right? 1,000 times a day. That's how insignificant. So all the things that are going on here occupy, and that's the whole 4 H's together. And what's a wonderful side effect of reading literatures like Bhagavatam is that they help you to see, on the grand scheme of things, how puny, how insignificant our existence is right now. What's going on, Everything is taking its due course according to karma. And if you want to offset the influence of karma, you just have to change your consciousness. If you change yourself, that's how you change the world. The people want to stay the same and change the world. It doesn't work. You change yourself, and then because you're part of the world, so as soon as you change yourself, automatically you change the world.
Yes, this is very interesting. Thank you. I just wondered, could you maybe say a little bit about some of the evidence that supports these extraordinary things we're learning about?
There's a book called Forbidden Archaeology you can have a look at, which is interesting. Shows how the age that we're in now is not the most advanced age. We're told that 5,000 years ago people were just rolling around in the dirt, and they were just like Cro-Magnon men with big beards hitting each other on the head with clubs. But they're finding architecture in the Mayan. They're able to melt rock and put it into these configurations, which then lock together. Very, very sophisticated form of architecture. So it's indicating that the civilizations before us were more advanced than what we have now. There's a lot of evidence about that, but that's not what they want us to believe. They have a certain worldview that they want us to have, so that we can remain unassuming consumers. All we have to do then is consume. You just keep making stuff, and when you make it, I will sell it back to you at a higher price than I'm paying you. And that's how the system works. Everything is based upon financial viability. If they make a razor blade that doesn't go blunt, which they did actually, they made a razor blade. Platinum made a razor blade called Diamond Edge, and it never went blunt. The problem is, once they sold everybody one, nobody came back for another one. So then they had to work out how to make them go blunt so that you could keep buying them. So that's how human progress becomes ruined by financial consideration. Same with their cars. They made a car that would last a lifetime. Tesla found a way of generating free energy. You can't sell free energy. That's no good.
Yes, this is excellent. Is it something to do with, we have these different classifications, Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras? And is it true that because everything's so messed up in Kali Yuga, that rather than having Brahmins at the top, the intellectual class sort of advising the leaders and things, we've got the merchants that are in charge, and that's why things are so corrupted, like you were saying?
I don't know if our guests are aware of, you may have seen the swastika that Adolf was very fond of. Well, it was actually, if you turn the swastika the other way around, it's a symbol of auspiciousness. So the other way around wasn't so auspicious. But it represents two lots of four categories. The first lot of categories are the type of person a person is. So a person could be a Shudra, which is a worker, or a Vaishya, which is a merchant, person that's good dealing with money, or a Kshatriya, which is a warrior, or a Brahmin, which is a thinker. So the Brahmins are usually quite small percentage, then the actual warriors a slightly larger percentage, Vaishyas larger, and then the mass are Shudras. And Shudras are identified as Shudras not according to their birth, but according to the qualities by which they work, So a Shudra is not interested in philosophy. He doesn't know how to really make money. And he's not a very brave person either. As soon as there's a fight, the Shudras all go running out. And the Kshatriyas are left to do the actual fighting. Kshatriyas make good leaders, good kings. So in an ideal society, you have 4 different social systems all operating at the same time. You have communism for the Shudras, so they all get an equal amount, all the same facility. Capitalism for the Vaishyas, so they're encouraged to be enterprising. Monarchy for the Kshatriyas, they will lead things and give protection to the citizens. And anarchy for the Brahmins. The Brahmins aren't taxed. They live outside of society in a poverty-stricken condition, and they're able to give non-biased advice to the Kshatriyas, the warriors, so that they can organize society nicely. Vaishyas can generate income, and then they're supposed to distribute like a cloud. The cloud draws up moisture from the earth, and then later on it inundates the earth indiscriminately. The rain goes everywhere, everyone gets it. So if the Vaishyas are following properly, they will generate income, store it, and then distribute the income so that all the workers get the benefit. But not that we start building bombs. See, bombs and tanks and airplanes, if the Kshatriyas are going to do the fighting, if one country has a fight with another country, they send all their warriors, and we send all our warriors, and they fight on a bit of wasteland, and whichever side wins inherits the kingdom. These days, you have a war, innocent women and children, old people that have got nothing to do with it are getting bombed, and when the side wins, it's so radioactive and destroyed that nobody wins. In today's war, nobody wins. Everyone loses. It's not a system which has been very well thought out. Whereas in days of yore, those that liked to fight would enter the battlefield, and then it would be decided, and whichever king came out triumphant would then take over the kingdom and rule the citizens. That's how it was supposed to work. And then you have another interesting aspect to Varnashrama, another 4 sections, but this doesn't relate to the type of person. This relates to the stage of life. When you're born to 25, a celibate life, or should be. 25 to 50, then you engage in sex life, have children, have a wife, build up a business, house, generate some type of income for yourself. Then 50 to 55 is the time when the man looks at his wife and he realizes, okay, it was nice 25 years ago, but everything's wearing a bit thin now. So let's forget the sex life, and the two of us can just travel now, and we'll find out about spiritual things. That's called vanaprast. But unfortunately, because in the West they don't know about that, the businessman's looking at the secretary, and he's looking at his wife, and he's thinking the secretary's only 25, and she's 50 now. She's past her sell-by date. Let's try that again with the secretary. So he goes off with the secretary, and 25 years later, she looks the same as his wife did. And he's thinking, okay, I think I've got it wrong somewhere, But you're supposed to realize when you're 50, okay, material life, material enjoyment doesn't really work. Let me travel, let me see the world, let me learn about spiritual life. And then 75 to 100, you get ready to die. And if you don't know how to die by the time you're 75, then you've missed the boat, because you're coming back again in another body. You've not worked out, oh, well, I know I'm going to die, but you don't prepare for it, do you? You just die. It's not what you do. Yeah, that's what the animals do. But the human form of life affords you the intelligence to prepare for death. So if you're not ready by that time, it means you're going to have to come back in another life. And if you have to come back in another life, it means you failed. You failed in the human form of life. The whole idea is to get free from samsara. Samsara is the repetition of birth and death. Shishiko nitai mai pashashi ki jai. If you don't escape the cycle of birth and death, then you failed. You failed in your mission of a human being. Some people, they're quite happy to do that. If they can come back as an animal, some people even say, I'd like to be my dog. And that's what happens. They come back as a dog. Because my dog doesn't pay council tax. And he's got 7 bitches on the block. So he's fine, He's A-okay. You never see dogs getting therapy for depression, right? Or on Prozac. They're just wagging their tail. Even if they lose a leg, they still look pretty happy. You ever seen a dog with 3 legs? They're not like, oh, I've only got 3 legs. They're okay about it. So 75 to 100 is called sannyas. And you may not take it. It's an actual ceremony where you can take that order. But you may not do that, but at least certainly by the time you're 50, you should be looking at cultivating detachment, becoming free now from trying to think you're going to find some pleasure here in the material world and make it a permanent place. Now it's you're halfway over, coming over to halfway over your life. Maybe you won't live to your 100. So when you get to 50, you should be really taking things more seriously. Of course, you never know when you're going to die. If you die tomorrow, you're an old man today. So you don't know. Nobody plans, do they, that morning? I think I'll die today. think I'll have a heart attack about 3 o'clock. It just happens a lot of the time, unplanned. So we have a general plan for our lives that but certainly if we do live that long, by the time we're 75, we should be seriously looking into how we're going to get ready for the time of death. Question? Not from Alan, somebody else. Question from Ed. Oh, Dan. Okay, Dan and then Ed. Yeah. A very good question. How do people prepare? Leela Manjari, how do people prepare to die at 75? Well, you do that anyway, right? You do it more seriously. At 75, you should be cultivating detachment, becoming more free from the bodily necessities. There's 4 basic reasons why we have a material body: to eat, to mate, to sleep, and to defend. So this defending propensity, this kind of false ego, who do they think they are, all that type of attitude, we have to become free from that. We have to work on that internally. And like Leela Manjari Mataji is saying, by chanting and practicing devotional activities, this helps us to purge ourselves of these unpleasant sides to our nature. And eating, naturally as you get older, actually you can't eat so much anyway. So you try to eat in a more controlled way. Sleep, you try to reduce your sleep. As you get older, you don't expend so much energy. So you can start to sleep less, which gives you more time to read and meditate and think about things. Sleep is like a near-death condition in itself, so we should try to avoid sleeping as much as possible. Some people, they like to sleep. I had a friend, he was unemployed, so he used to just get up at 2 o'clock, and he said, it's great because I haven't got much left of the day to try and get rid of after that. So the later he got up, the less he had to worry about how he was going to spend his time. So he just spent all his time sleeping, which is the same as dying, actually. When you sleep, you're dead. And we don't want death. We want to become free from eating, sleeping, mating. The mating propensity manifests in many different ways. There's the gross sexual act, but also in terms of your prestige, wearing really nice clothes, having a really flashy car, being very ostentatious. This is all subtle aspects of the mating, that you want to be appreciated, validated in your prowess by these objects that you surround yourself in, so that people will give you the adulation that you feel that you deserve, you see. So that's the mating propensity. And then the fearing is a symptom of ignorance. So the more we're in the dark, the more we're afraid, because we don't know. There's so many things that we don't know. And as we shift from the dark to the light, as we go into the light and we see everything for what it really is, that's called sattva, when you're in goodness. In sattva, you're illuminated by knowledge, then you're no longer afraid. And that's what a parent is supposed to be like. When I was a child, my dad was a wrestler, and he had big muscles, He used to bend 6-inch nails in front of us to show how tough he was, And my dad was like Superman to me, And as I grew older, I realized there was a lot of things that he was afraid of. And I'd assumed that when you were a grown up, you would have dealt with all your fears. When you're a child, you have fears. You're afraid of the dark. You're afraid of ghosts. You're afraid. I used to think my toys were planning things. I used to come into the room and I'd see them all together and I'd think, they're going to kill me tonight. That's what it is. I was quite a paranoid kid. I was afraid of so many things. I used to go and sleep with the bed covers over my head and sleep under the bed covers. And a light had to be on. I couldn't handle it in the dark, So there always had to be a light on in the room. So there were so many fears, and I used to think, I can't wait till I grow up and be like my dad, who doesn't have any fears. And then when I grow up, I realized, he's just been shining me on. He's as afraid as I am. There's so many things he's afraid of. Or he's not saying he's afraid of them, but he doesn't know. There's so many things he doesn't know. He doesn't know whether there's a God. He doesn't know what happens at the time of death. He doesn't know whether he's lived before. He doesn't know so many things. And as I grew up, I was thinking, well, surely you should have tried to figure these out, Dad. These are important questions, you know. No, we've got more important things to deal with. And I was thinking, well, to me, that is foundationally the most important thing. If I don't understand that, everything else is just a distraction or a diversion, you know. Let's deal with that. And because it's a lifelong process, spiritual perfection takes a lifetime. So we take these concepts on board, and we appreciate that we're not going to be able to do this overnight, but at least we have goals to aspire for, you know, and then we can make progress, little increments. Over decades, we start to see how we're starting to align, and we're starting to become aware. It's not a process of believing, actually. Unfortunately, religion has become a process of beliefs now. Would you like to be a born-again Jehovah Mormon? No problem. See this? You just believe these 12 things. I believe that. I believe. Okay, now you're in. You're one of us. But it's not like that. It's a question of not what you believe, but what you perceive. What do you perceive? Do you perceive you're not the body? Do you perceive that God is a person? Do you perceive that there's another world apart from the one we're living in right now? Can you perceive those things? If you can't perceive those things, it's nice that you're believing them, but it's not going to change the heart so much. When you perceive the truth, then the heart changes. When you believe the truth, then the heart stays the same. You may believe it's bad to kill animals, but you still eat them. But if you go down to an abattoir and you perceive the evil of killing animals, then you don't eat them. So how to go from believe to perceive? And that's why it's Krishna consciousness, because it's a question of your consciousness. If you can experience your consciousness changing, then you know you're making spiritual progress. But just believing things and hoping for the best. I believe it's nice to help old ladies across the road. Well, when was the last time you did it? Well, I don't actually help them across the road, but I do think it's a very good idea. I'm 100% behind anyone that does do it. I think it's very good. Yes, Ed.
I have 3 questions, but I'll start with a simple one.
Okay.
Within archaeology, are you talking about Graham Hancock?
No, Michael Cremo.
Michael Creamer.
Michael Cremo.
Okay,
It's a book like this. You can order it online. And it's things they've dug up and then buried.
Mm-hmm.
So they dug up a heel print in clay that's 250 million years old. And they went, put that back where you got it from, or you lose your job. So they just kind of put it under the carpet. So he took all these things. And some of them had refused, and then they just got blacklisted, lost their job, couldn't get a job anywhere, because that's not the party line.
Thank you. You were talking about the 4 points in the swastika.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you talking about the caste system?
Yeah.
Is that determined by your birth?
No.
No. Okay.
No, that's where it went wrong, because it did start getting determined by your birth. But there was one boy, he went to a guru, and the guru said, I only take Brahmins as my disciples. He said, do you know who your father is? And he said, I don't actually know. He said, well, go and ask your mother. So he went to his mother and he said, who's my father? And she says, do you know, I'm not sure. I've been with that many men. I couldn't tell you for definite, you know. So the boy went back to the guru and he said, my mother doesn't know who my father is. He says, okay, then you must be a Brahmin, because you're so truthful, because nobody's going to admit that. And one of the main qualities of a Brahmin is he's truthful. He'll always speak the truth. So he said, I'll take you as my disciple because you're truthful. So you must be a Brahmin.
Thank you. And the last question is about, you say about preparing for death and the certain stages of life. Because not everyone, obviously people die young and they die unexpectedly, and they die of things that might not necessarily be of their own cause.
Yeah.
Is this predestined by Krishna?
This is the effect of pushing a screwdriver through a grandfather clock. If you go up to a grandfather clock and you ram it with a screwdriver, and then you complain that it's not working properly, obviously it's not because you've abused the system. So people are born in unfortunate circumstances in Kali Yuga because their karma is so bad. Sometimes they don't even get born, they get killed in the womb. So you could say, well, he's just innocent, he didn't do anything wrong, and there he is getting aborted already. Give him a chance, at least let him get out and do something, you know. But he has karma from a past life because he's interfered with the system. He that performed an abortion or he had an abortion. So now the karma is you have to come back and you have to go through the same thing. And that's why people find it very hard to believe in God, because if you have a grandfather clock with a screwdriver through it and it's not working properly, then you lose your faith in the clockmaker. Well, why did he make such a rubbish clock in the first place? It never tells the time. The cuckoo comes out at all weird times, and it's useless, you know. Well, it's useless because it was abused in the first place, and therefore it's very hard to have faith in the clockmaker.
So thank you. Is the karma that you speak of, is that only in the past lives, or could your karma in this life determine the nature
Also,
and time of your death?
Also this life, yeah. This life plus whatever's going on in the past life as well. Like we had one of our devotees, he crashed a car. It was full of strawberries and cream, actually. So when he crashed it, he was covered in strawberries and cream, and he wasn't sure, because he broke his collarbone. He wasn't sure whether some of it was part of his flesh. He was like, oh. Anyway, they cleaned them all up and fixed it. And he went to a palmist, to look at the lines. So your lifeline is here, and his lifeline ended about there, which is like 40, you know. And that was when he had the accident. So on the day that he crashed the vehicle, that was the day he should have died. But because he'd performed devotional activities, he'd been alleviated to some degree from the full karma. He'd only got a reduced karmic reaction, and now he's living on borrowed time because he'd performed devotional activities. So you have everything is preset according to your karma and how you react, and then you have a tiny amount of independence. Like if you're going down a river, then the river turns here, it goes over some rapids here, it goes over some rocks here, and then it goes over a waterfall. And that's already set out. The waterfall is 37.6 miles away from where you are, and to get there at that speed will take you about 75 years. That's already there. But you could learn about canoeing and learn how to really navigate nicely, and you have to go down the same river, but it's nowhere near as unpleasant as the person going down the river backwards watching an LCD TV, because he's so distracted by his little world that he doesn't want to take into account the environment around him and how to navigate through it. So you can learn tools and strategies from spiritual philosophy so that you can navigate down that river with the least amount of problem and be ready for the waterfall. When the waterfall comes, you're not going down it backwards watching the telly. You've got both sides of the canoe. You're gripping it really hard, and as you go over, you go, Haribo! Which is the best way to go over the time of death. So, karma is, it's something, as soon as you start practicing spiritual life, everything changes. They say that when you clap your hands 3 times in front of the deities, all the lines disappear. So although they're still here, they don't apply the same. You're able to then break free. And although the palmist will say, oh, that should have happened then, suddenly you can take another course. And your destiny line, if that goes between here, then that's a good indication that that's your last lifetime. That refers to mukti. It goes like that. If it goes up there, it's heavenly planets. If it goes down, it's hellish planets.
Thank you.
So, but that's what you've been given. You've been given like when you're playing poker, you get your deal and you have your cards. That's what life's given you. You're 5'7", you've got brown eyes. When you're 50, your belly will hang over your waistline and you won't be able to see your toes anymore. And when you're 60, you'll go deaf. And when you're 70, you'll need to wear glasses. That's already there. But then, how do you take all those different situations and conditions and practice everything in a spiritual approach to life, and increase your ability then to transcend, rise above, override mitigating circumstances. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, it's not what happens to you that causes you so much the suffering. It's how you react to what happens to you that really causes you the suffering. So your karma is that this could happen. And if you react to it in a bad way, you could really suffer really badly because of that. You could say, well, it's just my karma. Like one boy, his father was a drunk, and he was a drunk as well. And he says, well, why are you a drunk? You know, he goes, well, what do you expect? My father was a drunk as well. But he had a brother, and his brother was a top neuron surgeon. So they said to him, well, how come you're a top neuron surgeon and your father was a drunken bum? He said, well, what else do you expect me to do? If you know, I'm definitely not going to be drinking after that. So how you react to the suffering condition determines more where you go than the condition itself. You could react in a very positive way, or you could react in a very negative way. That's entirely up to you. You can choose. We have freedom. We have free will, free choice. But what we want a lot of the time is freedom from choice. We don't want to have to take the blame. So we say, well, what do you expect? You know, my father was a drunken bum. Well, you have the freedom to choose. And people don't want that. So if you don't want that freedom, then you take birth as an animal, because the animal doesn't have any freedom. It just has to act according to the environment. And that's, the animal's not thinking, should I bite that postman? He's 6'7", and if I bite him, there's a good chance he'll smack me on the head with a car wrench. He'll just go and bite him and then get himself into trouble afterwards, you know. So you have freedom of choice. We don't want freedom from choice. We want to be accountable, responsible, conscientious. These are all good qualities to develop. But if you're lazy, who wants to be conscientious if you're lazy? Oh, it's too much hassle. Someone's dropped something on the floor there. Oh, well, that's his problem. It's got nothing to do with me. Conscientious person will say, oh, someone's dropped something on the floor. I better pick that up. We want to keep the environment clean. Jai, Iskon Guru in the key. Srila Prabhupada key. Gaura Premanandi.
His Grace Adhoksaja Prabhu ki.
All of you